Welcome home, brave heroes. I'm Ash, this is HeroQuest, and it is time. Time for Judgment, that is. Judgment Day is upon us, and it's actually a lot more than a day. It's going to take a long time to judge all of the fantastic submissions that made it into the HeroQuest 2024 Quest Jam. So indeed, submission period is now over, and myself and the other judges will now take the time that we need to rate the quests that were submitted in each of the following 6 categories: fun factor, originality and creativity, challenge balance, replayability, playtime length, and accessibility. This is no small feat, no small amount of work, even though there were fewer quests submitted this year than there were last year. I think we had 49 submissions versus 56 submissions last year. That's before you count the disqualifications. The extra category is really going to have us digging into the quests that were submitted. Now, the judges and I will all have our own different methods to rate these different quests in these different areas. They're all going to be very subjective. That's not something I'm going to defend. It is what it is. For me, the accessibility rating will suffer if a lot of the board is being used, if the quest is just taking forever to get through, if people in my party don't have the time to get through the supposed length of the quest because every inch of the board is populated with monsters and secret doors and traps, and there's a high difficulty rating, then the accessibility will suffer. Further, if it takes forever to read through the quest notes because the quest notes weren't formatted cleanly, or if the text of the quest notes is very small, denoting that the person who wrote them was simply taking advantage of having the automatic text wrap feature in their tool of choice, if it existed, then it will be very difficult and lengthy to lay out the quest as Zargon, and that will also hurt the quest's accessibility for me. Playtime length is also something that's kind of related to accessibility, although it did exist first, so accessibility doesn't necessarily write over playtime length. Playtime length should be the amount of time that the judge would like to spend playing the quest. That's 5 stars right there. And then if it's fewer than 5 stars, it means it drug on just a little bit too long, or it was too short. Quests that are too short present an interesting problem to tables of adventurers. One being, well, we finished this and we still have 30 minutes to go for our session. Do you guys want to start another quest? We won't necessarily be able to finish it though. This is one of those things you can't please everybody on, but you definitely can try to make sure that your quest makes some kind of sense with as long as it takes to play, and you can do this by play testing your own quest. That's going to be a helpful explanation for next year, but it won't help anybody who's already submitted their quest this year. It doesn't mean the shorter the quest, the better the score, or the longer the quest, the better the score. There's just going to be a happy medium that depends on the judge's perspective on it. Replayability. If I play this quest over and over and over again, would it be fun? If I have 2 different tables of adventurers, will I be able to stomach playing through this quest again? If so, then this is going to rate highly. If it's simple enough, it will rate highly because it's easy to set out a simple quest. That's how I would judge it. If it's pretty basic and fast and fun, it's going to score high on the replayability. If there are elements that offer rewards for playing through more than one time, that will score it higher on replayability as well. Very long, lengthy quests with lots of stuff put out that would hurt the accessibility and playtime length will not be as replayable, unless everybody at the table is having a fantastic time with a quest like that. And Zargon has a lot of opportunity to show off their master plan, set out the monsters, use them in creative ways. This can be a really difficult thing to do, and I would imagine only people who are pretty seasoned with HeroQuest mechanics would really be able to start thinking about how could Zargon have fun playing this too. The perfect example of a replayable quest is one that really only allows you to select one of more than one possible paths through a dungeon. And once you are on that path, there's so much of the board that you don't see because it's not possible to see that part of the board now. And so the next time the adventurers go through the quest, they could choose a different route, hence making it almost a completely different quest. I'm not talking about placing down new rooms where once there were old ones, like in the vein of the Dark Company scenario. I'm talking about simply not even letting players see parts of the board, because there are rooms there, there are monsters on the quest map, there are treasures to be had, but they chose a different route. That would definitely score a quest high in the replayability criteria. criterion. Challenge balance will also be pretty subjective. It's going to really depend on how difficult the judge thinks the quest is. This doesn't mean that if you get a total party wipeout once, that's going to knock down your challenge balance score. It could mean that the quest is very hard because it was meant to be played after Keller's Keep or after the game system, but the quest designer did not specify that. So we're playing with a brand new, fresh set of heroes that are getting their butts kicked because they don't have the Spirit Blade and battle axes and plate mail and crossbows and the Talisman of Lore and the Wizard's Staff and the Wizard's Cloak and the Wizard's Brother who was brought back to life through necromancy. Never mind. Challenge balance can also score a little bit lower if the quest is too easy. If you run through there and there's no real way to lose, it's just like a handful of goblins. There are some quests that I've played that are very much just lore based, or they're just having a good time. There's a skeleton, you talk to the skeleton, he has you get ingredients for a sandwich. That's awesome. I love that stuff. That's going to score probably kind of low on challenge balance unless there are mechanics in that quest that would cause the heroes to have to fail or try again. But for the most part, that sort of quest isn't really going to need to score high in challenge balance. Basically, if I'm a new party of heroes and I open a door and there's 4 Chaos Warriors or Dread Warriors in the first room, that's going to take a challenge and balance ding from me, as far as I'm concerned. Originality and creativity. How creative was the quest designer? Again, this will be subjective, just like all of the ones are. It doesn't really need to be said. It should go without saying, but it is something that I feel I should say over and over again. The originality of the quest and the creativity will really be apparent when your players have those, wow, that's cool kind of moments. Zargon might have that moment while Zargon is looking at the quest notes and nodding, smiling evilly. I see. This would be a high mark on the originality and creativity criterion. For Zargons, for the heroes, if the quest is very engaging and fun and it has them thinking about stuff, that would be a pretty original and creative quest. If it has the heroes taking advantage of new mechanics that aren't in the game system but are explained for the quest, that's some originality and some creativity at work. If the heroes open the door to a room and Zargon is instructed to give an elaborate sort of description of the fantasticalness of this room and exactly describe it to every little detail and take the heroes out of their headspace where they're just looking at a plain HeroQuest board and into a theater of the mind where they can experience more immersion. That is originality and creativity. To be completely honest with you, a lot of quests would score pretty high on originality and creativity just by virtue of them all being original works. But we have to take away the mindset of them being original works that scores them higher on this. And we have to think more about, well, all right, now that you're in the director's chair, how are you taking advantage of the tools that you have? At least, again, that's just my viewpoint on it. I won't speak for the other judges on this point. And finally, the fun factor. What can I say? You're going to know if the quest is fun if you play it. And it might be fun to some and not fun to others, or it might be more fun for some, less fun for others. All of these different categories are not mutually exclusive. They all kind of play a role in affecting one another. So if everything else here scores really high, the fun factor is probably astronomically high. We have a ton of submissions to look through here. I think 46 entries that qualified. Although it does say 49 entries, I had to take 3 of them and disqualify them so far, sadly. There's more to come. I know this much. There is more. I just have to rationalize why it's being disqualified and give the author feedback. But we have a good mix of classic quests and newer quests. And by that, I mean quests that were designed using the classic board in HQuest Builder versus the contemporary board design in HQuest Builder. If you remember last year's quests, you know that I tried to play the newer designed quests using the contemporary board, and I tried to play all of the quests that were designed using the classic map style with classic HeroQuest pieces, and I'm going to do the same thing this year. Although this year I'm actually going to be using the beautiful dungeon mats from Ian Schofield as my contemporary boards. You might see a few surprises along the way, but don't worry, this isn't anything that's going to affect the actual playability of the quest. And I do have a little bit of help this year. Nilbog and Cornelius and maybe even Rose will help me get some of these quests judged so I can take a little bit of a break. Don't worry, they'll use the exact same criteria that I would and the exact same method of thinking through things that I would. After all, they work for me. I pay them handsomely. I make sure that they are well compensated for their Anyway, I hope you're looking forward to the presentation of the quests as much as I am. They will take a while. The cadence of videos here on the channel it's about one every 2 days. I've been making it a point to make sure there's a video on every odd numbered day, and that's because I don't do this full time. But when I get very ahead, I start taking videos that are far back and slipping them in between the cracks. So it's more frequent of a video cadence. And the next 3 months aren't solely going to be just jam videos. I've got the arena battle videos to get back to. I have to make sure that I report on any drops of news or rumors coming through the rumor mill as it pertains to HeroQuest, and I really want to make sure I stay on top of showing you awesome unboxings of games I continue to get, as well as Kickstarters that I continue to discover. So look forward to all of that, and I will see you guys in the next video, which I am getting ready to record right now. Until then, have a fantastic rest of your day, and bye for now.